Hey guys, this is Tanner Invest here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. A lot of people have asked me to do an update on SharpLink Gaming, ticker symbol SBET. For those that don't know, I've made over 20 videos in the ETH space, and SharpLink was actually what I was covering prior to BitMine Immersion Technologies even coming out. So I actually was a stock owner of SBET before I even knew Tom Lee was starting a digital asset treasury company. And so that really excited me. The fact that the co-founder of Ethereum was starting an ETH, I think it made so much sense. I think his expertise and team with Consensus and MetaMask and all these reasons I've talked about over and over as to why I think SharpLink would be a good investment. And obviously none of this is financial advice. I'm just disclosing my personal trades and my opinions. But we've seen a sentiment shift around SBET. They were trading well above 1 NAV. Then Tom Lee came out and the Tom Lee effect happened, right? Where BMNR now is trading a significantly higher MNAV to SBET, and they've done a great job. And so I now have more of a position, a lot bigger of a position actually, of BitMine than I do SBET. And I've talked about it in many videos. If you have a higher MNAV, it allows you to be a lot more flexible with capital raising to buy more of the underlying asset. And right now, as we've seen the past like 3 or 4, I think 4 weeks, SBET hasn't done anything, right? So they were just saying, hey, there's no update, there's no update, there's no update, because they didn't have cash to buy back shares. And then they didn't have cash to buy more ETH. And their MNAV was trading under 1. So really, they're just sitting there staking. Yes, they're earning money on staking, which is about $115 million a year, which is nothing to scoff at, by the way. That's one of the big parts of this. A lot of companies strive for many, many, many years to be able to have $115 million in revenue just coming in the door every single year. And SBET, after raising over $3 billion in Ethereum, they can do that already within just a few months. So that's pretty exciting. Now, there has been a couple of new pieces of news that have come out this week. And so I'm going to hop into that and why there has been some reinvigorated excitement. Yesterday was an interesting day in the market. I actually, funny enough, I spent like I bought 200 shares worth about $8,000 on Galaxy Digital because there was rumors that Trump would be talking at 3 p.m. And, Trump had already kind of squashed some fear around the whole China news. I thought it was going to be a very exciting event, but it ended up being about fertility for women, and so it was a nothing burger. But midway through the day, there was a couple of stocks that actually reported their earnings in the morning, and they kind of scared the market with some jitters around credit risk for some regional banks. And so that caused what you see today. And if you guys were up last night, oh my gosh, I somehow woke up at like 3 or 4 in the morning. My spider senses, I think, were tingling. And I looked at my portfolio, and hopefully you didn't, because it was down a lot. But luckily this morning, Trump came out and squashed some more stuff around China. The market's rebounded a bit, but Bitcoin, Ethereum, cryptocurrency is not doing well. SBET is under $14. BMNR is trading under 50. So if, not financial advice, but if you have cash laying around, the market could go down further, but there have been a lot of people waiting for these type of prices on these assets. Now, me personally, I've spent a lot of my money yesterday. Like I said, I just spent $8 more thousand. So I'm not in a position to spend too much more. But let's go ahead and get into the news here. So Ethereum, 3,700. This is the lowest we've seen them in a while. Let's look at the weekly. We did see this the end of last week. And then over the weekend, we saw a little bit of a raise. This was when Trump originally tweeted about the China maybe imposing 100% tariffs. So we then rebounded throughout the week up to about 4,300 even. And then now we see what's happened. We're down in the dumps again. I do want to remind the people on this channel that sometimes this can be a good thing, guys. Volatility is really, really, really good. It's what they're looking for. The liquidity is high on BMNR. BMNR can dilute shareholders with that liquidity. They can raise more capital because they're trading at a premium and buy the dip. That's what they've been doing. So SharpLink, on the other hand, they really can't do that. And so they do not have a lot of money until recently. So I do want to get into this news here, where they actually raised $76.5 million through a direct offering at a 12% premium to market price. So you might be asking, Why wouldn't they just buy the shares at market price? Why would any company pay them a premium? Well, what this is doing is it's saying, if I'm Joe Chalem, I'm saying, hey, buy my shares today, give me $76.5 million at a 12% premium, which is $17 a share, by the way, at the time of this offering. And in 90 days, I'll give you the option to buy another $76.5 million at $17.50. So no matter where the price of ETH goes, there's a lot of people out there that think ETH, Bitcoin, they're about to run at the end of the year. There's a lot of liquidity out there that hasn't been put into these funds. There's a lot of, the Clarity Act and other market structure things that are happening that people believe will help make the price of cryptocurrencies go up. And so it's basically a call option where they're, instead of paying an option premium, they're actually just buying shares today, giving SharpLink that desperate money that they need. And they are then saying, hey, I'll also dilute shareholders in the future if you want to exercise that right to buy in 90 days. So this company, whoever, they sold this raise to, this investor, they think that in 90 days, the price of SharpLink will be above $17.50. Otherwise, there's no reason for them to have done this deal. There's zero reason, because they could just, if 90 days, the price of the stock's $15, $16, they're $17, anything under $17.50, they're not going to exercise those contracts. They can just buy at market price, right? So it's an interesting way for Joe Chalem and team and be able to raise money and have cash, because you need cash. They realize, like, oh shoot, we spent all of our money. I think in hindsight, it was, in my opinion, it was a mistake that they bought back shares in the past, because obviously in hindsight, they didn't think Ethereum was in a dip at the time, and the SBET was trading under 1 MNAV, so they just bought their shares. They thought, oh, this isn't going to last for long, but it's lasted for longer than they thought, and the dip of ETH has actually gotten lower. So ideally, instead of buying their shares back at like $15.50, they could have waited, bought their shares back today at $13.75. That would have been nice, right? That being said, the team is always trying to do what's best for shareholders. And at the time, that's what they thought would be best. They thought the price of ETH would go up, just like Tom Lee, just like all these other people have believed so. But that just hasn't happened. There's been some macroeconomics factors that just haven't gone in their favor. Now, a couple other key pieces of news. Citizens actually came out and they gave SharpLink Gaming a market outperform rating and a $50 price target, implying more than a 200% upside. So we have some analysts coming out and saying, hey, this seems like it's trading way too cheap. It's an ETH Treasury that's earning a staking yield, earning $115 million a year while just sitting there doing nothing. And they're trading under their asset value, which we've seen over time shouldn't really be happening. And so that being said, their bullish stance rests on positive long-term view of Ether, because we all know the underlying asset ultimately is the key driver in their price. So if ETH goes up, these treasuries will all follow the price of ETH. And they're forecasting ETH to be above 7,000 by 2026 and potentially exceeding 20,000 by 2030. So if you guys recall, when I made this purchase back in the day of SBET, my goal was like, I'm going to hold this in the long run. Obviously, hindsight's 2020. I bought it at a 1.2 MNAV thinking it would go higher than that. It hasn't. It's gone down to a 0.9, and the price of ETH has been flat or gone down since then. And so that's why my position size has been down on SBET. But these guys say, hey, in the long run, it's okay. They're going to be, if the price of ETH goes up, they could see SharpLink being a $50 stock. So that's a huge upside, guys. And there's another analyst that came out, part of B. Riley. They gave a buy rating on SharpLink as well with a $32 price target. So the stock at the point of this article was at 15.15, which is shown that it would over double on its price target as well. So they're saying that they think that they have an unmatched ecosystem credibility, which is Joseph Lubin, and the fact that they're like aligned with the HIP, with Consensus and MetaMask and Linea, that over time they will have expertise at staking yields, and then their current market valuation of 0.8 MNAV, which they're not at a 0.8. They're at like a 0.9, but anyway, it doesn't matter. The research firm expects SharpLink's premium to expand to 1.5x MNAV over the next 12 months, and that the company's ETH holdings will reach roughly 2.6 million coins by the end of the year in 2026. So that is interesting, guys. So there are some people out there that think, hey, if the price of ETH goes up, their MNAV goes up, their staking yields are gonna, be unmatched within the ecosystem and the other digital asset treasury companies, which is kind of their argument the entire time, right? They're going to be a one-stop shop. They're going to have everything under one roof. They don't need to go pay a little bit here, pay a little bit here to outsource their DeFi. They can do it all in-house and ultimately have higher staking yields. I think that also, once the investors kind of understand that, I think that will also help their stock. So that's pretty exciting, guys. And then the other thing is I've noticed Joseph Chalem. He actually created his X account like the day he became the chairman, because you kind of have to at that point. Like, you need to have a presence online nowadays. And so he has been a lot more aggressive in his reposts. And sorry, guys. And he's been a lot more aggressive in his just tone, in my opinion. So one I wanted to notice here is when he talked about this direct offering that we talked about already, he said, we get pitched capital raising opportunities all the time. That's his first thing he said. So he's like, guys, we have a lot of institutional interest in acquiring our shares, and we're being picky. He's saying we're not just going to sell at market. We're going to sell at a premium to market. And the 90-day thing is kind of crazy to me. I think in 3 months. So they're saying basically by the end of the year, this quarter just started. So maybe the beginning of January, the end of 2025, that their stock will be above 1750. So that's a pretty short-term option contract. It's not a leap by any means. So that's pretty interesting. So I think ultimately, I think it was a pretty good deal. Obviously, in hindsight, maybe it won't be a good deal, but you got to have that money. You got to have the capital to be able to do something, buy back shares, to be able to buy a dip if it happens. And then I did notice there was a couple other ones where, he always talks about Ethereum. I kind of want him to get more away from like, here's the big things about ETH. Here's what makes SharpLink different. But there was one time where someone put up a price target and they said no one thinks that ETH's going to blow up. And then he's like, I do. So like, I don't know. I just think he's getting a little bit more aggressive. I wish I could find it because here it is. The ETH pump will probably shock everyone. And then he said, not everyone. So that's my point, is I think he's getting a little bit more like comfortable, a little bit more, ballsy, I guess you could say, with his X posts. And so that's about it for me today, guys. People wanted an update on SBET, and, I haven't been the most happy with this stock. I bought around here in August, $22 a share. We've seen it's gone down like 40% since then. But that being said, we are like in the dumpster right now. ETH's low, the market sentiment's low, the jitters around the bank credit risk stuff is low. I think, I don't know if it's a bottoms in. I mean, heck, the market could fall down 10%. I mean, we could have a pullback. That's certainly a possibility. So I can't see the future, guys. But that being said, I'm pretty low on cash right now after just buying some more Galaxy Digital, which, by the way, stay tuned if you're interested. I will be coming out with a video hopefully here soon in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to do all my research. A lot of these videos take a lot of time because I'm getting all my thoughts together, but also I got to do all the research behind the company. So I do want to do a video, though, on Galaxy Digital. And so that's it for me, guys. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you guys so much. To all my supporters out there. You guys have a good one. Enjoy your weekend.